The Make-Believe Marriage. A sweet Southern holiday rom-com. Written by Susanne Ash. Chapter 1. Kristen. More coffee? I nod, and Claire fills my cup again. Thanks. I'll get out of your way after this. The coffee shop is getting busy during the afternoon rush, and my laptop battery is at 5%. Not that my search has been fruitful so far, but what choice do I have? I need a job, and I need a new place to stay. Quickly. You sit, and you stay as long as you like, hon. There's a plug for that computer over there. Claire squeezes my shoulder and points to a plug on the wall. I appreciate that. I climb under the table and manage to plug in the charging cable. Mind if I take this seat? A deep voice says. I raise and bump my head before emerging, face burning. It practically bursts into flames when I realize who the voice belongs to. Tom Howard, the handsome owner of the stunning Victorian next to mine, is standing above me, coffee in hand, his soft brown hair almost falling into his eyes, t-shirt straining across his broad shoulders. Sure. Sit down. I scramble up and climb back into my seat. By some miracle, my cup survived the impact of my head with the bottom of the table. Only a few splatters of coffee grace the wooden top. I wipe them up with a napkin and shut my laptop. If you're busy, Tom looks around, and I follow his gaze. The place is packed. I'm not. Please, sit. I pick up my coffee and wrap my hands around the ceramic mug. If you're sure. I appreciate it. Tom sits and takes a sip of what smells like a chai tea latte and sighs. Long day? I ask. He nods. You? Don't even ask. I avoid looking at the laptop that's let me down in my search. What's wrong? Tom puts his cup down and looks at me. We don't know each other well, but have spoken a few times here and there as the occasion arose. I'm moving. Not of my own accord, and I'm not sure where. I thought you and Lily liked that place. His head is cocked to the side like he's actually interested in my abysmal news. I do. Lily, not so much. Her boyfriend broke up with her, and she can't wait to get out of here. Since the lease is in her name. You can't take it over? Tom asks. I wish. I can't afford the place by myself. Especially not now. I'm sharing too much and promise myself to keep my mouth shut about my problems from here on out. Right. Christmas presents and stuff. He nods, undoubtedly picturing I have this huge list of people I need to buy for. I burst out laughing at the absurdity of it. No, far from it. I lost my job, and it's impossible to find something new that's more than a temp thing through the holidays. Which was the root of my problem. Tom stared at me, looking like I'd switched to speaking in a language he couldn't quite make out. I need to find a new place to live. Something smaller than my current place. Landlords like to see a steady paycheck and references. I don't have either. And it's hard to land an interview when you're not sure what address to put on the application. I see. Didn't you work for some acting school or something? Tom asks. I did. It's going out of business. Carl broke the news to me this morning. And they aren't willing to give you a good reference? Tom asks. You've worked there a while, haven't you? 2 years, and it's complicated. If by complicated, you mean throwing a temper tantrum worthy of a 2-year-old and calling your boss names that would have your mama running for a bar of soap to wash your mouth. Gotcha. Tom looks at his phone when it pings. I scan his face while he's busy reading whatever is causing that worry line on his forehead to form. The man is pale with dark circles under his eyes. He looks like he's been burning the candle at both ends. This isn't good, he mutters under his breath. What is it? I ask. It's nothing. He takes another sip of his tea and puts the phone down. You can tell me. I dumped all my problems on you, I say, picking up my own coffee. It's cooling down quickly, and I drink it up greedily. With the way things are going, it may be my last caffeine fix for a while. Why don't you go stay with your folks for the holidays? I'm sure something will open up the first of the year, he says, ignoring my suggestion. I almost spit out my coffee. Right. Not an option, he asks, looking concerned. Not really. There isn't anyone I could stay with. Except my dad. And that's not somewhere you want to go? I shake my head. He's busy celebrating Christmas with his second attempt at the whole marriage and kids thing. I'm only in the way. As much as I hate to admit it, the man has a point. Staying with Dad might be my only viable option. We both sit there in silence, stewing in our respective problems. Not that I have any clue what his is. I look up when he clears his throat. His eyes are fixed on me. I might have an idea. It's a little out there, though. I guess you could call it a proposal.
Chapter 2. Tom. Move in with you? We haven't even been on a date yet, Kirsten blurts out, the moment I suggest it. Her hand flies to her mouth and clamps over it. That adorable blush I noticed when she rose from under the table is back. You didn't let me finish. I sit back and watch her. She's cute in a girl next door kind of way. My soon-to-be ex-neighbor looks nothing like my definitely ex-fiancée, and that's fine by me. Kristen lowers her hand but doesn't say a word. I propose that you move in with me through the first of the year. You're welcome to stay longer if you need more time finding your own place. Her mouth opens. I hold up my hand. I need to get this whole crazy idea out before I answer any more questions or risk having her run out on me. Apparently, that's a thing with me and women now. I push any thoughts of Mindy aside and grasp for my train of thought. In exchange, I want you to pretend to be my wife. No funny business, of course. You'll have your own bedroom and stuff. I scan her face to see how she's taken this so far. She's confused but curious or desperate enough to at least hear me out. All I need you to do is help me decorate the house for Christmas and throw a dinner party for my boss and his wife and pretend to be married to me for the evening. There might be a kiss to sell the whole marriage thing, but that's it. Okay. She didn't back off at the mention of the kiss, and it does something to me. Not that I'm ready to think about anyone that way. Probably not ever again. Why? She asks. Why what? I play dumb. Why do you need a wife so desperately that you're willing to offer me a place to stay? She asks. Free room and board, I clarify. It's a long story, but the gist of it is that I'm up for a big promotion at work, and my boss thinks I'm married. I'd like to keep up that illusion until I have it. He's pretty old-fashioned. That's a little deceptive, isn't it? Kristen asks. It's not nearly as bad as it sounds. I sigh. It didn't work out, and I never cleared that up at work. I'd rather not have to fess up until after I have the position. The truth was that I'd been too embarrassed to admit I'd called it off. Instead, I'd hidden out at home for the week I was supposed to be away on my honeymoon and then gone into work accepting congratulations and left it at that. To clarify, I help get your house ready for Christmas, host a party, pretend to be your wife during said party, and I have a place to stay until I find something of my own, she asks. That's basically it. I can't shake the feeling that there's something she's hiding. Maybe she's not great at interior design, or the thought of having to kiss me bothers her more than she lets on. Maybe I read this situation wrong. If you don't want to. I do. You have a deal. She holds out her hand, and I shake it. My boss invited himself and his wife over for Friday night, and I don't have the time to be choosy. I'll deal with whatever Kristen is hiding if it becomes a problem. This place is as stunning inside as it is outside, Kristen says halfway through the tour of the place. Thanks. The house is my pride and joy. Restoring it and turning it into the sanctuary it is today is what kept me sane in the months after the wedding disaster. But according to my sister, I need a little help brightening the place up. And I haven't been in the mood to put up a tree or anything else remotely Christmassy. Where do I stay? She asks, spinning around in the hall when I point to the door that leads to the guest room. Over here. I open the door and motion for her to enter the room. It mirrors my bedroom with a similar ensuite bathroom. The only reason I had chosen the other room was the view. This one overlooked the street, while my room had a view of the walled garden. That's the true gem of this place. Especially when the plants wake from their winter slumber. It has a fireplace. Kristen's voice rises, and she crouches down to peek into it, practically disappearing into the space. It works too. I'll bring some wood up once we get your stuff moved in. If you're still game. I hold my breath and wait for her to turn around. When she does, she has a small soot smudge on her nose. Absolutely. Let's do this. Her eyes spark like the flames that will flicker in the fireplace tonight. It doesn't take us long to move her meager belongings from her place to mine. We can stick these boxes in the garage if it isn't stuff you need. Same goes for any furniture you want to keep. I put the box I'm carrying down in the entryway. There's nothing worth keeping, aside from my plants. Garage works for the books and these as long as it's dry and critter-free. 2 trips later and enough green plants to fill a small greenhouse, and she's moved in. I'm dead on my feet. The boost of energy the chai latte gave me is long gone. Hungry? I ask when we found a spot for the last of the plants. Who knew they could be so needy? Some required full sunlight for at least 6 hours a day, while others preferred indirect light. Others yet needed a humid environment and were now staying on a small shelf in her bathroom. I'd promised to find something wider for them to sit on tomorrow. Starving. Do you want me to fix you a sandwich or something? She asks, a twinkle of mischief in her eyes. I just happen to be the world's best sandwich maker. I shake my head. How about pizza? By the time the delivery guy shows up, we're both ravenous. I grab paper plates, and Kristen serves us each a slice piled high with every type of meat the pizza place downtown has to offer. The first thing you need is a Christmas tree, Kristen says, digging into her food and washing it down with a glass of water. Right. I hope they're not completely sold out. Christmas is still a week away, but most people snatch theirs up in early December or sooner. The lot down by the shopping center still had a few left earlier today when I drove by. They might still be open. She glances at her phone. I guess we should go grab it while we have the chance. I shove the rest of my pizza in my mouth and wipe my hands on a napkin. We get lucky and come back with a decent tree and a whole bag of ornaments and lights Kristen insisted we'd need when we stopped for a tree stand on the way back. Ready to set this up? She asks, her eyes gleaming with excitement. Let's do it. I'm surprised by how much fun I'm having. The thought of decorating the house had seemed like such a chore, but Kristen's excitement is rubbing off on me. All right, step 1. Let's get this tree into the stand. She pulls the forest green metal contraption from the box and puts it together. Getting our 5-foot Douglas fir into it is another story. Watch out. A branch slaps across my face, the scent of the tree engulfing me, along with the sticky substance that covers both of my hands. Sorry. Let me just nudge this a little farther back. 30 minutes later, we finally have the tree in place, and after some trial and error, it passes Kirsten's inspection. She takes a few steps back and nods. That looks pretty straight to me. What do you think? Once we fill these spots with a few extra ornaments, get the lights up. I stop listening and simply nod my agreement. I thought it looked fine 25 minutes ago. All right, next step, the lights. This year will be easy. We won't have to worry about tangled cords or burnout light bulbs, she says, the serious look on her face making me smile. I think back on the many times in my childhood when Dad had spent long hours and plenty of expletives muttered under his breath that had Mom pulling us out of the living room. Why don't you go make us some hot chocolate and turn on some Christmas music while I get these strung up? I ask, holding up the 2 boxes of clear LED lights we bought at the craft store on the way home. Pantry, top shelf on the right, and the stereo is over there. You've got it. Kristen skips off to the kitchen, and before long, The microwave beeps and Christmas tunes play from her phone. Thanks. I take the white mug from her. The hot chocolate isn't bad, and she made it with milk instead of water, which gets her instant bonus points. I can overlook the fact that it's still cold in spots. It takes a while to get used to a new kitchen and its appliances. Ready for the ornaments? She asks as rocking around the Christmas tree starts to play. I watch her dance over to the bag that holds the rest of our purchases. She pulls ornaments out of it and hands a couple of them to me before continuing her dance, looking up at the tree, deciding on the perfect spot, before changing her mind after hanging it there. I stand back and watch her. Kristen looks over her shoulder, eyes still blazing with excitement. What are you waiting for? Those ornaments aren't going to hang themselves. I laugh, put down my lukewarm cocoa and hang the penguins dressed in Santa hats and scarves. How's this? Kristen steps back and looks at the tree critically. She moves one of the penguins and returns to her spot. That works. Let's see what else we've got. I'm surprised how much I'm enjoying myself as we slowly, but surely fill the tree and somehow manage to fit everything she's picked on it. I reach for the bag the same moment she does to grab the last of the ornaments. Our fingers touch and it's the most amazing feeling. An instant connection that has my heart rate speeding up. I haven't had a reaction this strong in, well, ever. I pull back my hand, surprised there's no visible evidence of sparks flying. After you. Kristen grows quiet, the rosy blush back in her cheeks. I watch her hang the last red glass globe before stepping back to inspect our work. Not bad, she says after moving a few things around. I think it's amazing. And I'm not just talking about the tree. Hardly. I can't believe I forgot the tree topper. I'll go back first thing in the morning. What do you think? Star or angel? She asks, turning and almost bumping into my chest. My mind goes blank, and I realize I'm in trouble. Finding myself attracted to my make-believe wife was not part of the plan.
Chapter 3. Kristen. You're doing what? Lily asks when I head back the next day to help her clean out our place before we turn the key over to the landlord. I'm staying at his place, pretending to be his wife at some dinner party he's hosting for his boss. He's a busy guy. He needs a little help pulling it off, and it's not like I have anything else to do now that I'm unemployed. I sweep a huge pile of dust, hair, and crumbs into the pan. I have no idea where it's coming from. Lily and I are both neat people, and we've been sweeping this kitchen diligently every night we lived here. Or at least most nights. He knows you can't cook, right? Lily points to the old electric stove that's borne witness to my failed attempts to prepare a meal that involved more than a plate and a knife. I agreed to host a dinner party and decorate his house. I dump the dirt into the trash bag sitting in the center of the kitchen and turn to walk to the hallway. Please tell me you told Tom that you can't cook. Lily stops me from leaving the kitchen. Okay. I shrug, doing my best to brush off the one part of this arrangement that's been eating a hole into my stomach. OMG. He has no idea, does he? Lily puts down the rag she's been using to wipe out cabinets and turns to me, hands on her hips. Don't worry. I'll figure it out. How? You can't cook to save your life. You've scorched a pot of boiling water to make tea. Lily raises an eyebrow, continuing to stare at me. I said I'll figure it out. I still have a couple of days. He's saving my bacon by letting me stay with him. The least I can do is make a meal and put up a few decorations. I walk past her and get back to sweeping. I wish I could stay and help you. By doing what? Hiding in the kitchen to do the cooking? I appreciate the gesture, but there's no helping me out of this. I need to woman up and figure out how to cook a passable dinner for Tom's boss and his wife. How hard can it be? People figure out how to do this every single day. I guess that won't work, will it? Lily asks, a sad smile on her face. It won't. You have things to do, places to go. And I have a house to decorate. Let's finish this and get the keys turned in. I give the woman I've shared a tiny apartment with a hug, and we do just that. 2 hours later, I walk back into Tom's place, carrying 2 large bags of Christmas decorations. A bunch of throw pillows, blankets, the missing tree topper, and a stunning wreath for the front door are waiting in my trunk. If there's one thing I am good at when it comes to housewifely duties, it's making this place look like $1,000,000. And it won't even cost Tom nearly that much. Sure, his credit card is getting a bit of a workout today, but that's what he gave it to me for. I make another cup of coffee and grab another cookie. That's right. Domestic goddess that I am, I made a batch of walnut and cranberry cookies. Okay, they are the break and bake kind, but only a few of them got burned when I lost track of time. Most of them are perfectly edible and pretty delicious. I crank up my upbeat holiday music playlist and get to work. All goes according to plan until my phone rings. Hey, Tom, everything going okay? I didn't spend too much? I ask, assuming he's gotten an alert or a call from the bank or something. What? No. I'm sure it's fine. I want to ask you a favor. He sounds distracted. And tired. Ask away. I set down the pine garland I plan on wrapping around the rail of the stairs. I'm not going to make it back home until late and didn't get a chance to grab lunch. Would you mind fixing us something? I don't care what. I should be home around 7:30. I glance at the clock on the mantel. That gives me a little over 3 hours to figure out how to cook. Sure thing, boss. Any requests? I don't care. Nothing fancy. Just some hot meal so I can eat and crash on the couch. Tom ends the call before I can ask what kind of food he likes. Part of me is tempted to order pizza, but he'll see right through that. The man asked me to cook for him, and he's helping me out of the pickle I've gotten myself in. The least I can do is make an effort and cook him something. How complicated can it be, H? It's worse than I thought. An hour of watching cooking videos didn't help much. Spaghetti with meat sauce sounds easy enough until I try to follow the directions and everything goes wrong. I'm improving though. I managed to boil the pasta water without scorching the pot and the cookies turned out well. The noodles are happily floating in the hot water, but the ground beef is a different story. It keeps sticking and is turning into a crunchy, dark brown mess that keeps sticking to the bottom of the pan. Kristen? Tom walks in the door the moment the smoke detector goes off. For the second time. I wave a kitchen towel in front of it. In here. I'm fine. Dinner is almost ready. Tom walks in and takes a look at the mess I've made on the stove. I don't think so. He reaches across my shoulder and turns off both burners. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I stand in front of the mess I made. I feel tears pooling in my eyes and wipe at them angrily. Darn smoke. You can't cook, can you? Tom asks, his voice sounding defeated. He opens the kitchen window. Cold air streams in and clears the worst of the smoke. I'm not great. I made cookies, though. I turn to face him, trying to brace myself for his anger. He's quiet. He doesn't even look angry. Mostly tired and contemplative. Please don't throw me out. I can do this. I promise. I just need a little practice. Let me try again. I grab the pan and scrape the burned bits of beef into the trash can. Tom stirs the noodles and shakes his head. I'll cook. You do dishes. He rolls up his sleeves and opens the pantry. Luckily, I bought 2 packs of pasta, but there's no beef left. He rummages around and pulls out a head of garlic and a bottle of olive oil. I do as asked, handing him the clean pot and pan by the time he's done chopping garlic. The scent is pungent, and I wonder about that much garlic in a single dish. But what do I know? Not much, apparently. I sit back and watch the man work. I don't know how well he cooks, but he sure plays the part, wearing a charcoal gray half apron over his suit pants. His tie is gone, and he's got a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow. I swallow hard, enjoying this scruffy and more relaxed version of Tom a little too much. In less time than it took me to get the water boiling the first time around, he whips up some garlic and olive oil pasta dish with parsley. He serves it up on simple white plates, with freshly grated Parmesan cheese. This smells amazing. I look at the dish in front of me. I'd happily order this at my favorite Italian restaurant. And he cooked it right in front of me in less than half an hour. Impressive. Taste it. You may not like it. Some of his spark is back. He doesn't look nearly as tired as he had when he first walked in the door. You enjoy this, don't you? I ask. He looks at me, eyes wide. You like to cook, I add. I do. At least I do most nights. I don't get around to cooking anything more complicated than this most of the time. He rolls some of the spaghetti in their rich, creamy sauce around his fork, and I do the same. Why would you? This is to die for. I'm not joking. It's without doubt the best pasta dish I've ever had. It's all in the ingredients. You can't mess it up if you use fresh garlic and good olive oil. Trust me, I could. I dig in again, savoring every bite. Maybe you're right. He doesn't look angry. A little disappointed maybe, but so far, he hasn't kicked me out. And that's a problem. With the dinner party. He holds up a hand and stops me. Let's not worry about it. I am too worn out to even think about that darn dinner. Let's just eat and relax for the night. That's exactly what we do. I insist on cleaning up the kitchen, sending him into the living room to find us something to watch. By the time I return with a small plate of cookies for dessert, he's stretched out on the couch, a movie playing in the background. I love Elf, I blurt out when I recognize it. Me too. He takes a cookie, looking surprised that it's edible, when he cautiously bites into it. Can't say that I blame him, but lucky for me, the cookies are fine and the movie is as good as I remember. I put down the plate, grab a cookie for myself, and curl up in the oversized chair, pulling the throw I bought earlier in the day across my legs. We laugh at Will Ferrell's antics and sing along with him. The place looks great. Sorry I didn't say anything earlier, Tom says, doing his best to suppress a yawn. You were a little distracted by the threat of a fire in the kitchen. I smile, trying to put on a good face, but it still bothers me that I failed yet again at cooking a meal. It really shouldn't be that complicated. Even Buddy knew how to make spaghetti, though his choice of toppings is questionable. We'll figure something out. Tom's eyes return to the TV screen, and we both lose ourselves in the last bit of the movie. I glance over at him when the end credits roll, surprised he hasn't said anything. His eyes are closed, his breathing deep and even. Tom's fallen asleep. I get up, trying hard not to make a sound, and carefully drape the throw across him. He rolls on his side but doesn't wake up. I tuck the blanket around his shoulders, noticing how much softer his features are in sleep. The worry lines across his forehead have melted away, and the strong jawline I like so much has softened a bit as well. I tiptoe upstairs and get ready for bed. When I see my reflection in the bathroom mirror, it hits me. I'm falling hard for this man who's come to my rescue and is counting on me to pull off the impossible.
Chapter 4. Tom. I don't remember when I made it to my bedroom last night, but my neck is paying for the hours I spent sleeping on the couch. I pour myself a cup of coffee and think about the mess I've gotten myself into. I can't believe I thought moving her in and having her pretend to be my wife would fix this. I take a big gulp and yelp, scorching hot liquid rushing down my throat, burning a layer of tissue along the way. Tom? Everything okay? Kristen rushes into the kitchen, her bare feet hitting the tile floor in a fast staccato that helps take my mind off the pain. Fine, I bite out, reaching for a glass of water. You don't look fine. What happened? She looks adorable, all concerned, her hair a mess. She's wearing an oversized t-shirt with a large bright pink pig printed on it. I recognize it as the logo for a chain of local grocery stores. She turns, and I spit water all over myself at the sight of "I dig the pig" written in large pink letters across the back. Seriously, what's wrong with you? Are you having a stroke? She asks, whipping back around and handing me a towel when she sees the mess I made. Hot coffee. It's a lame excuse, but it's all I've got. Right. Kristen looks at me like I'm losing my marbles and pours herself a cup. That is pretty hot, she says after a cautious sip. It's better than the "I told you so" that stuck in the back of my throat, the words burning right along with the coffee. Do you want me to make you some eggs? She asks. I raise an eyebrow, continuing my effort to stick to the advice my mother gave me many years ago. When you don't have anything nice to say and all that. It's served me well so far, but has never proven to be as difficult to follow as it is right now. Fine. Toast? I can make toast. She walks to the pantry and pulls out a loaf of bread, throwing 4 slices into the toaster. While it heats and I recover, she grabs butter and jam from the fridge. Thank you. I give the coffee another try, this time more cautiously. I can't taste it, but it is no longer causing me bodily harm, and I need the caffeine. What's the plan for this dinner tonight? Kristen asks, spreading butter and jam on 2 slices before sliding the plate toward me. I've been thinking about it. There's no way I can teach you to cook, and I have a meeting at the office this afternoon. Best course of action will be to order something and have you warm it back up and put it on platters. I'm sure I can find someone from a local restaurant that will put something together. I go through a mental list of places to call. A friend of mine works at Rooted. I can give her a call. The chef does some catering on the side. As long as we keep it simple, I'm sure he won't mind cooking for us tonight. Kristen bites into her toast. A bit of strawberry jam gets stuck on her lip, and I have a hard time looking away. Rooted would be perfect. Do you mind picking it up? Not one bit. I'll call you when I get a hold of someone. The call comes in before lunch, and Kristen handles everything beautifully. That sounds perfect. I know this is a sensitive topic with women your age, but how would you feel about wearing an apron? You know, to sell the whole cooking thing. I'm nervous about pulling this off and hope the right accessories will keep my old-fashioned boss and his wife from realizing this is all a big sham. One I'm not feeling particularly proud of. But I've worked too long and too hard for this promotion to risk coming clean now. In a couple of weeks, I'll tell them. Or come up with some story about a separation. No matter what, I'm not letting Mindy take this away from me, too. Seriously? An apron? I'm willing to bet money that Kristen is rolling her eyes. If you'd rather. Fine. Whatever. I'll play your pretty trophy wife and wear an apron. Anything specific you want me to buy? And don't even think about one of those tacky ones with vegetable print fabric. She tries to sound serious, but I can hear the amusement in her voice. I've got it covered. I hit the buy button and have a nice linen apron ready for pickup during my lunch break. It looks as adorable on her as I imagined it would. You're seriously going to make me wear this? Kristen asks, admiring herself in the hall mirror. Up to you, but I'd hate to see you ruin that blouse and skirt of yours. You look nice, by the way. I lean in and brush a strand of hair out of her face. Thank you. I hope it's not too much. She twirls around, showing off her hair, makeup, and the 2-inch heels that make her legs look like they're a mile long. You look stunning. Thank you for doing this. Don't thank me yet. She adjusts the apron ties and walks back into the kitchen, where the dishes the chef from Rooted prepared for us are lined up on the counter. By the time our guests arrive, all evidence of the switch and bait has been removed, and the duck is slowly reheating in the oven, making the entire place smell like Kristen's slaved in the kitchen for the past 6 hours. You have a lovely home, Lydia Martin, my boss's wife says when they walk in the door at 7 o'clock sharp. Thank you, Kristen and I say in unison, and I realize the comment was directed at my make-believe wife. This is for you. She holds a bottle of wine out to me while Bob Martin hands Kristen a bouquet of flowers. They are bright and cheerful, and for some reason, strike me as perfect for her. Kristen's eyes light up, and a strange sense of pride runs through me when I realize I was right. She likes them. I'll go put those into some water. Why don't you take Mr. and Mrs. Martin to the dining room and get everyone a glass of wine? Please, call me Lydia. Is there anything I can do to help? Mrs. Martin asks. Kristen shakes her head, and I motion for the couple to follow me through the living room and into the dining room, bypassing the kitchen and any possible remaining evidence of our little meal prep deception. And you can call me Bob. He holds his hand out to her and shakes it a little longer than necessary, wrapping a second hand around hers. I glance at Lydia, but it doesn't seem to bother her the way it does me. Wine? I ask, in an effort to get everyone moving. Please. Lydia moves through the living room with me, with Bob following close behind. By the time Kristen returns with the flowers and sets them in the center of the dining room table, everyone has a glass of wine. Handing Kristen hers, I propose a toast. To a good meal with good friends. Good plan, Tom. I'm starving. Bob claps me on the shoulder, almost making me spill wine all over the beautifully set table. In that case, why don't I get us started with the first course? Kristen puts her wine down, and I follow her into the kitchen. What can I do to help? I ask. I'll ladle, you carry. She points to the tray where 4 small soup bowls are waiting. The chef from Rooted sent over a container of cream of asparagus soup and a small bag of croutons. Not something we'd ordered, but I was sure it would go well with the rest of the meal, and it was a nice touch. This is delicious. You'll have to give me the recipe, Lydia says after her first taste of the dish. I'll email it to you. Kristen's cheeks only turn the slightest hint of pink. It's easily explained as embarrassment at the compliment. You've both done a nice job with this place. Tom, you said you did most of the restorations yourself? Bob asks. Relieved, I launch into a lengthy discussion of everything I've done since I bought the place. It's a labor of love and something I can talk about for hours. Is everyone ready for the main course? Kristen asks, and I realize I've lost the Martins' interest. I'll help you serve. Lydia jumps up, and Bob pulls me into a conversation about real estate values in the area. I glance at Kristen. She gives me a confident smile before turning to Lydia to thank her for the help. I apologize for the duck. I overcooked it. Kristen sets the bird in front of me and hands me the carving set that was a housewarming gift from my sister. I'm sure it will be fine, and these roasted potatoes and the asparagus look delicious. Lydia sets 2 platters on the table before returning to her seat. Let's see what we've got here. I cut into the breast of the duck. It still smells great, but Kristen is right. The skin is charred, and the meat is dry, almost impossible with duck. It reminds me a little of the way my mom fixes her Thanksgiving turkey. Thankfully, the Martins are good sports and praise the meal, regardless. I forgot the rolls. Kristen jumps up and returns with a basket of steaming hot bread a few minutes later. That's when it clicks. The duck must have still been in the oven when she cranked up the heat to bake the rolls. I always love roasted asparagus. They serve it with sun-dried tomatoes like this at Rooted. Is that where you got the idea? Lydia asks, and I hold my breath. Sure did. Roll anyone? Kristen holds up the basket and a piece of paper drops on the table, right in front of Bob. My heart stops when I realize what it is. The reheating instructions from the chef, written down on a piece of stationery with the Rooted logo at the top. I don't know what to say. My mind has gone blank. Mortified that our little ruse is up, I can't think of a way to talk myself out of this. Why did I think it was a good idea to deceive my boss like this? My conscience kicks into another gear, and I try to find the words to make this right. I look at Kristen, and to my surprise, she doesn't look panicked at all. It's my fault. I can't cook to save my life, but I wanted to make a good first impression. Everything here is from Rooted. I'm so sorry. Please don't blame Tom. His only fault was to marry a horrible cook. Kristen reaches over and takes my hand, squeezing it in silent support. I mouth a silent thank you in her direction. Lydia looks at her husband, then at Kristen, and smiles. Don't worry about a thing, honey. This is a brilliant idea. I should have thought of it years ago. Yes, you should. This is delicious, and you did a wonderful job serving it up, Bob said, his tone as encouraging as his wife's. Except for the duck. And for the record, that's on me. It didn't arrive like this. Kristen motions to the bird in front of me. I happen to like dry meat. Bob pops a bit of the meat into his mouth. And chews. And chews. And chews, before reaching for his wine. Right. Kristen laughs and pulls her hand away from mine. I miss the connection and busy myself refilling glasses. The rest of the evening goes well. We play the perfect married couple, at ease with each other. Except for the rare occasions we touch. A hand on the shoulder, fingers brushing against each other as we clear the dishes, sitting close to each other on the couch. It's exciting and slightly awkward and unexpected. It's getting late, Lydia says after coffee and apple pie. Right, I'm sure these two lovebirds are ready for some alone time. Bob winks at Kristen, and this time her cheeks grow that glowing pink I've seen before. I clear my throat, and Lydia shakes her head. She gets up, and I help her into her coat. Thank you both for a lovely evening. We'll have to return the favor soon, she says, giving both of us a warm smile and a brief hug. Come to my office Monday morning, Bob says, shrugging into his jacket. I have some papers for you to sign. Does that mean you got the promotion? Kristen asks quietly after I shut the door behind the Martins. I think it does. A huge grin spread across my face. I didn't think we'd pull this off, but somehow, we did. I couldn't have done this without you. Except for the part where I almost ruined it all with the duck and the instructions. Kristen shakes her head and puts the cups and plates on a tray to take them to the kitchen. And then you saved the day. I can't thank you enough for what you did tonight. Leave this. I'll take care of it. I take the tray from her, and sparks fly again at the briefest touch of our fingers. No way. I'm too keyed up to head to bed. We'll do it together. This part of kitchen work, I'm actually good at. We work as a team, loading the dishwasher and washing pots, pans, and finally the wine glasses. The adrenaline of the evening finally wears off, and we're both yawning as we make our way upstairs, turning off the various lights, including those on the Christmas tree. Thank you. I mean it, I say when we stop in front of her door. You're very welcome. And I mean that too. Kristen doesn't move, and neither do I. We're rooted to the floor, lost in each other's eyes. Mine travel down to her rosy lips, my head lowering of its own volition. I catch myself at the last moment, realizing what I'm doing. I step back and take a deep breath. Good night.
Chapter 5. Kristen. I breathe a sigh of relief that he's gone by the time I get up on Monday morning. After tiptoeing around each other all weekend, and 2 nights in a row, I finally slept long and deep. Not that our time together has been bad. We've had fun, watching Christmas movies, going for walks through downtown Wilmington, shopping at the local holiday fair. It's been nice, relaxing, and restful, except for the lingering tension between us. The one that flared up to full force Friday night when Tom came this close to kissing me. And I can't stop thinking about it. When my phone rings, I'm thankful for the distraction. Lily, how are things back at home? Strange and strained. Moving back home is very different from coming back for a visit. Lily doesn't sound as annoyed as her words would indicate. I'm sure your mom's happy to have you home, I say, sitting down at the kitchen table with my coffee. She is. When she's not getting annoyed with me about leaving my stuff all over the place. You know how it is. I don't, but I make an agreeable noise. How about you? How are things with our old neighbor, Tom? Still enjoying playing house? She asks. It's going okay. We made it through dinner with his boss. I think he's getting his promotion today. That's great. What aren't you telling me? Lily asks. We had this moment after they left. I don't know. I think I'm reading too much into it. I shrug, knowing full well she can't see me. OMG. Are you falling for the guy? Like really falling for him, not just having that little crush from afar that you've had since the first time you saw him? Lily's voice rises. I can practically hear her bouncing in her seat. I don't know. There was something. I thought he was going to kiss me, and then nothing. What happened? He turned around and went to bed. As had I. Not that I'd slept much that night. And neither one of you said anything about it since, she asked. No, I shake my head. Any signs that he's interested in more than a temporary roommate situation? I don't think so. I mean, we had fun this weekend, watched a couple of movies and stuff, but mostly, we've been staying out of each other's way. We'd tiptoed around each other all weekend, and the tension was definitely still there. You should tell him. Or better yet, grab him and plant one on him. He'll get the idea. I bark out a laugh at her brazen idea. Right. That'll go over well. You forget that I'm dependent on him for a roof over my head right now. It's too risky. I'm gonna have to call you out on that one. You're scared of rejection, not eviction. And even if he did ask you to leave, which for the record, he won't, you have places you can go. Friends. Your dad. The doorbell rings, and I breathe out a sigh of relief that I'm getting out of this conversation. I have to go. Someone's at the door. Think about it. And take action. If you don't, you'll regret it for the rest of your life, Lily says, firing the words at me before I can hang up. I'm Stephanie, Tom's sister. And you are? The tall woman with bleached blonde hair, wearing a smart pants suit, stands in front of me, hand on her hip, holding an expensive-looking purse in the other. I'm Kristen. Tom isn't here. I'll tell him you stopped by. I close the door, but Stephanie takes a step forward and stops me. Kristen who? More importantly, why are you here, and what are you to my brother? Stephanie brushes past me and walks into the living room. Nice tree. Thank you. Excuse me for a moment. Phone call. I pull my silent mobile out of my back pocket and rush into the hall bathroom, locking the door behind me. Tom. Do you have a sister named Stephanie? Tall, blonde, well-dressed? I blurt out the second he answers the phone. I do. Why? Because she just waltzed in the door and wanted to know who I am and what I'm doing here. What do I tell her? My words come out fast, but not nearly as fast as my heart is beating in my chest. What is she? Never mind. Let me think. Think quickly, I beg, keeping my voice low. I can hear Stephanie pacing her in her high heels across the restored wooden floors of the living room. How about this? Tell her we're roommates. I decided to get some help with the bills. Keep it casual and tell her as little as possible. I'll be there as soon as I can. Tom hangs up before I get a chance to ask any follow-up questions. I flush the toilet and wash my hands to buy myself a couple more minutes. Then I head back into the lion's den. Stephanie looks stern, intimidating. Nothing like her brother. Not that Tom is a pushover or anything, but he exudes kindness. Always has. Tom is on his way. Can I get you something to drink? Cup of coffee, I say before she can ask me more questions I don't know how to answer. Coffee would be great. So you and my brother? She follows me into the kitchen and takes the cup I hand her. We're roommates. I used to live next door and needed a place to stay. He was looking for someone to help out. You know, bills and stuff. I read somewhere that the most convincing lies are those that stick as close to the truth as possible. You're his roommate? Right. Stephanie takes a seat on a bar stool, and I stay on the other side of the counter. I'm not buying it. Tom doesn't need help to pay the mortgage on this place. If he even took one out. I don't know the full story, but I believe he'd planned to move in here with his future wife. The place is kinda big for one person. I pour myself another cup of coffee, not that I need the caffeine. The adrenaline pumping through my system is stimulant enough. Right. That was something else. Canceling everything the night before the wedding? Stephanie shakes her head. The night before? The words are out of my mouth before I realize what I've said. He didn't tell you? I guess he wouldn't share that with a roommate. Forget I said anything. Stephanie sets her cup down and studies me carefully. Tell me about yourself, Kristen. You used to live next door? We chat, and I somehow manage to hide the fact that I'm here because I'm currently unemployed and would otherwise be homeless. Instead, we talk about my experience in office management, my friend Lily, and the reason I had to move, and finally the Christmas decorations when Tom walks in the door. Tom, there you are. Your so-called roommate kept me entertained. She has an eye for design, I give her that. This place needed a female touch. Stephanie rises and embraces her brother, leaving a lipstick smudge on his cheek that bothers me. Kristen is my roommate. Nothing more. She needed a place to stay. I was looking for a renter. I don't know what you're trying to insinuate. Tom steps into the kitchen, taking a position beside me. Stephanie looks at each of us in turn. Right. You just happened to find an attractive young woman to share your home with. How'd she talk you into this, and how much rent is she paying you? That's none of your business. And I don't appreciate you insinuating that there's anything going on between us. Because there isn't. Tom glares at his sister. I'm stunned he's standing there, verbally fighting for my honor. A knight in shining armor, coming to my rescue. Not that I need him to do that. I'll leave the two of you to talk. I walk upstairs to ponder what I've learned this morning. Tom doesn't seem to be interested in making this anything more than what it is. Friends helping each other out. And that he'd come much closer to getting married than he'd let on when we'd talked before. Pretending he'd gone through with the wedding made a little more sense, but I'm more confused than ever. I look up when I hear a soft knock on my door. You can come out now. She's gone, Tom says. You didn't have to get rid of her on my account. She's your sister, and we're just roommates, I reply when I open the door. I think we've gone past roommates, and whatever is or isn't going on between us is none of her business. He steps back and leans against the wall. That's what you told her? I ask. The man keeps throwing me for loops. I can't get a read on him and what he may be feeling for me. Pretty much. That, and I told her I'll see her on Christmas Day at my parents' house. She shouldn't come back here between now and then. He smiles. I'm sure it's meant to be reassuring, but all it does is give me butterflies. Can I ask you a question? I ask later that night over dinner. Tom fixed salmon and these tiny herbed potatoes that are my new favorite dish ever. Shoot. I'm an open book. He raises his glass and takes a sip of water. Stephanie mentioned you called off the wedding the night before. My sister is a blabbermouth, he mutters under his breath. Then it's true? I ask when he doesn't continue. Tom keeps his eyes on his plate, shredding the salmon into tiny bits. Yes, but it isn't something I want to talk about. I get the message. His almost marriage is something he's working through, and whatever this thing between us may have been, it's never going to be anything other than what it is right now. A make-believe marriage with an expiration date that's about to be up.
Chapter 6. Tom. Kristen, I'm home. I walk in the door, holding the bottle of champagne I picked up on my way home. Ready to celebrate? An empty house greets me. None of the lights are on, not even the Christmas tree, which is strange. It's the first thing Kristen turns on in the morning and the last thing she turns off before heading upstairs at night. If it weren't for her irrational fear of setting my house on fire, I'm sure she'd leave it on all night. Tonight, it's me lighting the tree and switching on the living room light. When I walk into the kitchen and flip the switch, I see the envelope on the breakfast bar, propped up by 2 Santa coffee mugs. My name is scrawled across the envelope in large letters. Tom. Merry Christmas and congratulations on the promotion. I'm glad our little ruse worked. I decided to go visit my dad for the holidays, after all. Thanks again for giving me a place to stay. Wishing you and your family happy holidays. Kristen. What is this? No explanation, no chance to talk about this. I stare at the letter in disbelief. We got close these past few days. I almost kissed the woman. And at the first sign of an argument, if you could call it that, she ran? I was not about to let her get away with that. Not after I'd spent all afternoon crafting and rehearsing my speech about how this thing we had nothing to do with me and my ex. It has taken me longer than it should have, but I've realized that Mindy and I weren't right for each other. But Kristen and I, we have something. Something special. And I'm not ready to let that go. I pull my phone out of my jacket pocket along with the stack of index cards that were meant to help me stay on track and find the right words to explain what I was feeling. Tom. Kristen sounds surprised when I call her cell. I read your note. Where are you? I think we need to talk about this, I say, doing my best to keep my tone casual. There's nothing to talk about. You got your promotion, and I still haven't found a job. I figure it's best if I go see my dad and his family in Alabama. It'll be nice to spend the holidays with them, watch my half-siblings open presents. You don't mean that. Where are you? I'll come pick you up. I hear a loudspeaker in the background announcing a bus for Memphis leaving in 30 minutes. I don't think that's a good idea. Listen, my bus is about to leave. I have to run. Merry Christmas. She hangs up before I can get another word in. I stare at my phone in disbelief. She can't do this. She can't just walk away and leave me to celebrate my promotion by myself. She can't walk out on me on Christmas Eve. She can't walk out on me, period. Not when I finally figured out that I love her. She's not walking away from me. Not like this. Not without all the cards on the table. 40, 50, 60 miles per hour. I'm way over the speed limit, determined to make it to the bus depot before she leaves. By a sudden turn of luck, I find a parking space right in the front. I run to the information desk, eyes darting throughout the space, looking for her. Where's the bus to Alabama? I ask the older man sitting behind the counter. He looks at his watch. It left 10 minutes ago. I'm guessing they're about to leave town. I'm back in my car within seconds, throwing into reverse and heading toward the highway leading west out of town. I push the pedal to the metal and pray I don't get stopped for speeding. I have a lot of ground to make up. My mind whirls. All I can think of is reaching the bus and stopping her from leaving. There's no room to think of anything else. The needle of the speedometer inches farther and farther to the right. Finally, I spot the lights of a large vehicle down the dark and empty highway. This time it isn't another 18-wheeler carrying one last load before Christmas. This time it's a bus, and I pray it's hers. I flash my headlights and lay on the horn, pulling up beside the bus until the driver pulls over. What the? Thanks for stopping. I'm looking for someone. I brush past him and stride through the bus, eyes darting from one side of the aisle to the other. Tom? What are you doing here? Kristen stands up, and our eyes connect. The bus, its passengers, and the driver behind me fade away. All I can see is her. I don't want you to leave, I say, closing the distance between us. I love you, Kristen. Please come home with me. You do? Her eyes are wide, her mouth slightly open, drawing all my attention to the lips I've been dying to kiss since that night it almost happened. I haven't been brave enough, but now there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. I do. I pull her close and kiss her. There's no caution, no hesitation. This isn't a sweet first kiss. This is me communicating my desperation. She doesn't pull back, doesn't push me away. Instead, she matches my urgency, wrapping her hands around my neck and pulling me closer. It's the sounds of cheers and whistles that finally break through the haze and bring me to my senses. I back up the tiniest bit, keeping a hand on Kristen's waist, not willing to let go of her completely. I scan her face carefully, anxious about what I would read in it. It couldn't be worse than that letter. Except it could. To my relief, I don't read rejection. Instead, her cheeks are pink, her lips red and a bit swollen, and her expression is an intoxicating mix of embarrassment and joy. It's the best present I could have asked for. Does that mean you'll spend Christmas with me? I ask. The entire bus grows silent. Kristen doesn't say a word. After a second that spreads into eternity, she nods and grabs her bags from the overhead compartment. We exit the bus to a round of applause. Even the driver doesn't look like he's ready to call the police anymore. Merry Christmas, I call out to everyone and lead the woman who has walked into my house and into my heart to my car.
Chapter 7. Kristen. I can't believe you did this. I don't try to hide the huge grin on my face as we drive back into Wilmington, his hand wrapped around mine, holding on to me like he's worried I'll jump out and chase after that bus. That was something else, wasn't it? I went a little crazy when I read your letter. Did I embarrass you? He asks, shooting me a quick glance before returning to watch the dark road ahead of us. A little. But it had also been incredibly romantic. Like something out of a Richard Gere movie. Why did you do it? Leave without talking to me, he asks as the city grows closer. I didn't think there was anything to talk about. Your sister. Ignore my sister. About this and most other things. She's worried about me. She's the one who found me after. After what? What happened with you and your fiancé? There's more to this than you let on, isn't there? I ask, hoping he trusts me enough to tell me the full story. And if he doesn't, I might have to find my way back onto that bus, even after the move he pulled chasing after me like that. Friends introduced us about 2 years ago. We got along well enough, and after a while, she kept hinting at taking the next step. So I proposed. We set the date for a June wedding. Tom takes a deep breath and blows it out slowly. His eyes are firmly on the road in front of us. I sit quietly, letting him get this out in his own time. Mindy went missing during the rehearsal dinner. I went looking for her and found her in some storage closet with my best man. I called the whole thing off then and there. We're stopped at a traffic light. Tom won't look at me. I take his hand and squeeze it. No wonder you let everyone at work believe you'd gone through with the wedding. I can't imagine how painful and embarrassing the experience had been for him. You and the guy were close? Best friend since first grade. Not anymore, of course. He shakes his head and drives when the light goes green. We're quiet until we get to the house. Tom insists on carrying my bag in for me. He sets it down at the bottom of the stairs. Now that you know the whole story, he looks toward me, but our eyes don't connect. His gaze drifts above mine, over to the lit Christmas tree. Every light in the house is on, making the place bright and cheerful. So different from how I'd left it a little more than 2 hours ago. Now that I know the whole story, I'm glad you came chasing after me. And I'm glad I'm back here with you. Where I belong. I walk up to him and wrap my arms around him. Are you sure? He uses his hand to lift my chin, finally looking straight at me. Never been more sure of anything else in my life. I move my arms from his waist to his neck, raise up on my toes, and kiss him. He pulls me closer, and we both take our time. Savoring the taste and feel of each other as our lips move together. Merry Christmas, Kristen, he whispers when we finally come up for air. His forehead is touching mine, our bodies pressed against each other, and I have no idea how long we stand there, holding each other up and reveling in the feeling of being together, right here in this old Victorian where we belong. I have a present for you and a request, Tom says when I walk down the stairs the next morning, wearing my Santa pajamas. That sounds familiar. What is it this time? Want me to pretend to be your sister? I quip, taking the cup of coffee he holds out for me. It has a sprinkle of cinnamon in it, which somehow makes it feel and taste festive. Cookie, he asks, sitting back down on the couch where he must have been waiting for me. Tell me about this request first, I say, sitting next to him and snuggling into his side. Sure you don't want your present first, he asks. Definitely not. Bad news first. What do you want? I push myself up and turn, worried by his delay tactics. It's nothing bad. I was hoping you'd come with me to my parents' house and meet the rest of my family. He looks more vulnerable now than he did last night. Are they worse than your sister? I ask, wrapping my hands more tightly around the Santa mug to soak up the warmth from the coffee. No. They're nice. I think you'll like them. He grins before reaching for something under the coffee table and coming back with a package wrapped in shiny red paper. Hold on. I put down my cup and run upstairs, pulling the gift bag that held his gift out of my closet. Tom hasn't moved an inch when I rush back down and hold the bag out to him. How do you want to do this? He asks, exchanging presents with me. Let's open them together. And by the way, it's nothing big. I didn't know we were, you know. I feel the warmth rising in my cheeks at the thought of our kisses last night. Doing this? He leans forward and gives me another one. It's sweet and over too soon, but I can taste the coffee on his lips. Pretty much. I tuck a strand of hair behind my ear, suddenly feeling unsure about the gift I'd picked out days ago. I'm sure I'll love it. Open yours, he prompts, looking at me with those soft eyes of his. Together, I say, and he nods, pulling tissue paper from the bag when I start to rip the wrapping paper. Under it, I discover a box with a beautiful hanging plant holder. You mentioned your spider plant needed a larger pot. I thought this would work well. You can hang it up in whatever light that plant needs. I can't remember if it prefers direct or indirect sunlight. That's so sweet. Now look at yours. I watch him reach into the bag and pull out the gourmet garlic press I picked out. Interesting choice. He grins and moves it around, looking at it from all angles. Since you like garlic and I love that pasta dish you made, I thought it was something you could use. I refuse to be too embarrassed of my practical gift. We weren't more than friends helping each other out when I got it. Very thoughtful. I'll have to cook for you more often. Especially since you can't. I throw a pillow at him in mock rage, which only results in him tackling me and pinning me under him before kissing me senseless. You never answered me, he says when he lets go of me much too soon. About meeting my family. I guess I could do that. When do they expect you? I ask, sitting up and smoothing out my PJs. In about half an hour. What? You can't be serious. I jump up and run upstairs, taking the steps 2 at a time while mentally flipping through my outfit options, desperate for something that screamed meeting the parents of the love of your life. Mom, Dad, this is Kristen. My girlfriend. Tom holds my hand and pulls me inside the modest ranch on the other side of town. You've met my sister, Stephanie. Stephanie smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. I'm sure it's all she can do not to blurt out, I knew it. To her credit, she doesn't, but I can feel she isn't happy to see me. Tom's mother is another story. Welcome. We're so excited to meet you. When Tom called this morning to let me know you were coming, I wept with joy. The woman, who looks like an older and kinder version of his sister, pulls me into a warm hug. Welcome to our home, his father says, opting to shake my hand instead. Come on in. Food's ready. The largest brunch spread I've ever seen is covering the dining room table. There's enough food here for at least 20 people. Mom likes to cook, Tom says with a wink. I can see that. And it looks like she's an amazing baker too. The cinnamon rolls look and smell amazing. After too much food, I excuse myself and step out onto the front porch. It's strange being in a home so filled with people and their love for each other. My head is spinning from the changes the last 24 hours have brought. The cold December air helps calm my nerves and clear my head. The front door opens, and Stephanie steps out, a cup of steaming coffee in her hand. I was hoping to catch you alone. I nod, suddenly feeling trapped. Of course. What's on your mind? I ask. Offense is the best defense I find. You and Tom are together, after all? Her eyes scrutinize me more openly than they have inside the house. We are now. We weren't before. I didn't lie to you, if that's what you're thinking. I was doing Tom a favor, and he let me stay with him. He explained the whole make-believe marriage thing. I can't believe he never told anyone. Never mind. That's not why I'm here. Why are you here? I ask, wrapping my arms around myself as the cold air seeps into me. I won't beat around the bush. What are your intentions toward Tom? I don't want to see him hurt again. I almost laugh at the old-fashioned turn of phrase. One look at her face sobers me up. She's worried about him. That I can understand. It's all very new, but what I can tell you is that I like your brother very much and that I hope we have a future together. Stephanie barks out a laugh. Right. I'm serious. I had a crush on him for a while and was as surprised as you are when he asked me to move in. Then I got to know him and fell in love with him. I don't buy it. I think you enjoy having a cushy place to stay and a man who will do anything for you. Stephanie sets her coffee down on the railing and puts a hand on her hip. I don't know what to say other than that I'm telling you the truth. I can't promise you that things will work out between us, but I hope they will. I'm in love with Tom. I hope she can see the honesty and vulnerability in my eyes. Prove it. How? I ask, unsure what this woman wants from me. Stephanie's shoulders slump, and she lets out a breath and a big sigh. I don't know. I just don't want to see him like that again. Would me moving out and getting a place of my own do it? Because that's the plan. Stephanie looks at me, surprised. It is? Of course. I never planned to stay past the first of the year. And that's not going to change. I'm not going to rush us into anything, especially not a marriage. Stephanie nods, and I get the feeling I've won her over, even if she isn't quite ready to admit it yet.
Epilogue. Tom. New Year's Eve. If you would have told me a month ago that I'd be spending Christmas with my girlfriend, I wouldn't have believed you. I sit on the couch, my arm around Kristen, keeping her close. Flames are dancing, and blazing wood is crackling in the old fireplace in the living room. The Christmas tree and every piece of decoration are gone, thanks to a family superstition of hers that keeping anything holiday-related up into the new year brought bad luck. It wasn't how I wanted to spend the better part of today, but now that it's done, it feels good to start the new year with a clean slate. The house is sparkling almost as much as the small secret I keep hidden behind the couch cushion, waiting for the right moment. I know. Everything went so fast. I can't believe how quickly my life turned completely around since the day we ran into each other in the coffee shop. I have a job, and Christmas was so much nicer than I'd ever imagined it would be. I like your family. She smiles and snuggles closer, taking a sip of her hot cocoa. You like my parents. I think Stephanie will take some time. I love my sister, but she's doing everything she can to make my life difficult right now. I like Stephanie, but she's not convinced I'm good enough for you. I think the belated Christmas gift I got her helped, though. That was very thoughtful, I say. Kristen insisted on going shopping for gifts for my family the day after Christmas. The stores were busy and many of the shelves bare, but somehow this woman had managed to pick 3 meaningful gifts we promptly dropped off, much to everyone's surprise. Thank you. Kill M with kindness is my personal policy when it comes to your sister. It might take some time, but you wait and see. It'll work. I have no doubt. The woman beside me can do anything she puts her mind to. Except cook, and I don't mind that one bit. Are you excited about the new job? I am. Yesterday was good. I got a feel for how they work. Kristen spent a few hours at the production company that hired her to get a feel for her responsibility. We won't see each other as much once you start in earnest. Even less when I find my own place. I'm checking out 2 of them after work on Monday. You're welcome to join me, she says. You're still determined to move out? Sure I can't convince you otherwise? I ask, brushing soft kisses on her cheeks, eyebrows, and the tip of her pretty little nose. You realize this has the opposite effect, right? She asks. How so? I'm surprised. I've done my best to convince her to stay here with me, where she belonged. Because you are making it much too tempting to share the same roof with you. She kisses me on the lips, lingering for a moment before pulling back. I'm having none of that. I take our cups and set them down on the coffee table in front of us before pulling her closer for a long, deep kiss. It's almost midnight, Kristen says, glancing at the grandfather clock in the corner. It is. My heart is beating louder. It's drowning out the ticking of the clock. I'm surprised she can't hear it. I reach behind me, ensuring myself the small velvet-covered box is still there. At the stroke of midnight, my hand wraps around it, and I get down on one knee in front of her. What? The surprise in her eyes makes the moment all the sweeter. Kristen Swanson, I didn't know I needed you until you walked into my life and into this house. It made this place a true home, and I can't imagine a life without you by my side. Will you marry me? She's quiet, her eyes scanning my face. I wait, opening the box and holding it out for her. Are you sure? She finally asks. I haven't been more sure of anything in my life, I say. But if you need more time, I understand. Flipping the box closed, I rise to my feet, swallowing my disappointment. Kristen gets up from the couch, and we stand face to face. I don't know what to do. They didn't cover this in the proposal manual. Yes, she says. I'll marry you. Under one condition. I raise an eyebrow. I didn't realize this was a negotiation. What's that? We have a long engagement, and I actually get a place of my own for a while. Her eyes never leave me. I can live with that. It's not how I pictured this moment, but the important part is that she said yes. Good. Does that mean I can have the ring? She smiles, her tone less sassy than her words. I laugh. Yes, it does. I flip the box open and slip the ring on her finger. We open the bottle of champagne in the fridge to toast the new year and our engagement. Sitting on the bar stools in the kitchen, my curiosity gets the better of me. Why the long engagement? Couple of reasons. We don't really know each other that well. It's only been a few weeks. She shrugs, and I buy it. We've learned more about each other living together than most couples do in months of dating. And the second reason? I ask when she doesn't continue, hoping to get to the real reason. I promised I would. She sips on her sparkling wine. Promised who? Your sister. We talked on Christmas Day. She's worried I'll hurt you and asked me to prove that I love you and I'm not in this for an easy meal ticket. Kristen shrugs, but I can tell this is bothering her. I reach over and cup her face. I know how I feel about you, and I have a pretty good idea of how you feel about me. I get that my sister worries, but we should not let her dictate how we live our lives. You don't need to prove anything to her, least of all your love for me. Kristen swallows and nods. I know. The other thing is. What's the other reason? I prod gently when she stays silent. It's been a tiny bit too tempting to live under one roof with you, she says with an embarrassed smile. Especially when you kiss me every chance you get. We could use a little space, I think. The look on her face makes me laugh. Or we could head to the courthouse on Monday and get married. They open at 9.
The end. This has been The Make-Believe Marriage. Written by Susanne Ash. Copyright 2021 by Susanne Ash. Production copyright 2023 by Susanne Ash. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe if you want me to put more of my books on YouTube. Visit my website at www.susanneash.com for more of my books or find me on Amazon.